Good morning, News Time 8:31. This is the local news hour with KPCW. My next guest is Vicky Fitlow. She is running for District Seat 4 for the Park City Board of Education. And Vicky describes herself as an attorney, a wife, and a mother. And she is here in the studio to talk to us about her campaign. Welcome. Thanks for coming by.
Thanks for having me.
So we are going to be interviewing both Park City School Board candidates who were running for Seat 4. This is the position that will replace J.J. Ellers, whose term is coming to an end at the end of December. And we will be interviewing Kara Hendricks tomorrow at the same hour, 8:30. And we'll just get started and talk about your background, Vicky.
Absolutely.
Tell us a little bit about yourself and what brings you to this position where you want to be on the school board.
Thank you for having me this morning. My background, as you said, I'm an attorney for 22 years, 20 of those years up here in Park City. Started off as commercial litigation, so kind of the hard scrabble world of trials and fighting over money for people's businesses. About 2 years ago, I stepped back from that litigation practice and now have a small practice doing small businesses. I help small businesses get their feet off the ground, get them organized, and I also do a little real estate. My children, I have 3 children. My oldest is 14. She's a freshman at Treasure Mountain Junior High. And then I have twins who are 7th graders. I've been involved in my children's education since they were toddlers in their little preschool program. So I've been a classroom volunteer, making copies. I run a mean laminating machine. And I've done everything that I could behind the scenes to support teachers and make sure that they have everything that they need to be able to be extraordinary for students.
Okay, and Vicki, it looks like your 7th graders go to the Weilandman School of Discovery, a charter school here in Park City. And tell me a little bit about your background with Weilandman and how it is you decided on that course versus
Absolutely.
going into the Park City School District.
Sure. So my oldest was in kindergarten at Soaring Wings Montessori when we were looking at where to go for first grade. My husband and I had a little disagreement. I loved Soaring Wings. I loved Montessori. It changed how I parent. And I really wanted to stay in Soaring Wings for as long as possible. And my husband felt very strongly about transitioning to the public school system. And while we were engaged in that debate in our marriage, we heard about this new charter school opening, and we went to check out. This was before it opened. It wasn't even a hole in the ground at the time. We went to check out the people that were organizing it and what the philosophy of the school was. And to be honest, it kind of let us sidestep a debate in our marriage, so nobody won. And we enrolled our daughter in first grade there, kind of on a let's see how it goes basis, and figuring if we weren't happy there, we had other options. And obviously we stayed there. My daughter went there for 8 years. My youngest 2 will be there 9 years when they're finished. And I loved the opportunity to get involved at the ground floor. It's a public charter school. It's funded by the state of Utah. Our board has a contract with the state charter school board to run the school, about 600 kids from kindergarten through 8th grade. And for the last 4 years, I've been able to serve on their board of directors, 1 year as chair.
Okay, great. So what opportunities do you see for the new school board person?
Absolutely. It's a really exciting time for Park City School District. We've been in a time of transition. We've had turnover on our board. We've had turnover in our administrative leadership. We've had some seesawing back and forth in our direction, with a failed bond and some initiatives that maybe weren't rolled out as smoothly as they could be. So I see it as a great time to steady the ship. Dr. Gilday's leadership is looking to be excellent. She's got great experience with leading a school district. She's taking her time to assess where we are. And I think this school board is really starting to get its feet. I don't know if you've heard the expression before, but the first year or maybe even 2 years on a school board, it's kind of like drinking from a fire hose. There's a lot of acronyms to get used to. There's a lot of legalities of the Open Public Meetings Act and school governance requirements to get used to. And I think this board is really finding its feet, and I'm excited to have a chance to jump in and contribute to the setting of the direction for the future of the district.
Okay, and you refer to the failed bond and some of the seesawing that went on there. That was a result of some planning efforts underway in 2014-15. And what lessons do you feel were learned during that time?
It's a really tough thing. That process was a year-long process, and yet people felt like at the end the community hadn't been listened to. And coming from it from the other side, you feel like you're getting information out there. You feel like you're listening to people. You feel like you're bringing the community in, and to hear at the end of that process that people feel like it's been sprung on them and that they haven't been heard is really tough. So I think the lesson to take from that is to just redouble your efforts to get out there, be a part of the community, invite people in. I think this master planning process that's underway is going about it from the right direction, which is envisioning what we want our kids' education to look like. What does the education of the future look like in Park City? And then working backwards from there to decide, well, okay, so that's what education is going to look like. What facilities do we need, and how do we get that in place? And I think that's the right way to go about it. But you have to just be relentless about getting information out there and about bringing people in to provide their input and to really listen.
So the school board has made a policy change about doing interviews with KPCW in particular, and they are no longer doing interviews the morning after work sessions, and they will not do interviews prior to the board meetings. And instead, I guess either board member or administrator will come on to the radio to address what happened after the regular board meeting, which is a once-a-month meeting. The school district says it has its own means of communicating with the public. How do you think the communication is working for, allowing taxpayers to know what is happening? And would you do anything different? And just like to get your input there.
So I'll say this. I don't know the deliberations behind the scenes of what the school district was thinking, and the board and the superintendent with making that change. From my perspective on the outside, I just think it's a terrible idea. I think more communication is always better. I mean, I understand not wanting to be distracted, but it's a publicly elected position. Part of the job is being accessible to constituents and being willing to get out there and put out information. And I'd love to hear more of the justification for it, but from the outside, I'm not a fan of the decision. I think this has been a small town for the 20 years that I've lived here, and having the superintendent on and the board members on regularly is one of the most important ways of getting information out there. To cut that back seems like a terrible idea to me.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about the goal setting for the board and your feelings or your opinions on how you would fit in with those areas. Master planning, which is underway, safety has been a goal and continues to be a goal going forward. Access and equity, suggesting access and equity to education, and then organizational structure, and of course communication. Communication is one of the key elements of their goals this year. Where do you fall in that area? What do you think about those goals, and how you will, join in on that effort if elected?
Well, I was fortunate enough to be able to attend all of the board meetings for the past 2 or 3 years, but especially the board retreat that was held earlier this year, where they had a facilitator come in and help them work on those goals. So I'm a big fan of the process of going through and articulating sort of all of the goals that you could possibly have as a school board, and then the process of whittling those down to what are the ones that are truly overarching and important. And I think they did a great job of coming up with the categories. Having seen the process, I think that gives me great confidence that they have selected the goals that are truly important to the community and to the district to set the vision and direction for the future. So I'm excited to jump in and support those goals.
Okay, great. Anything else you want to add?
No, just that I'm excited for the opportunity, and I would be honored to serve.
Thank you for coming in. That's Vicky Fitlow. Vicky is running for the school board open seat 4, which will be vacated as of December 31st.